Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our virtual event, Keeping the Dream Alive. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this webinar is one of many webinars, activities, and resources that are part of our College and Career Readiness event, presented by the Parent Engagement Program at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. For more information, please visit our website at parentengagement.sccoe.org. Next slide. I'm Jamie Koo, the Parent Engagement Specialist, and I have the special privilege of hosting this interview today with Elton Lin from Illumine Education, who will be speaking with us on the topic of passion projects, developing leadership skills through extracurricular activities. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Lin. He is the CEO and founder of Illumine Education. He has over 10 years in college counseling, and together with his dynamic team, they have counseled students who are accepted to over 50 plus Ivy League schools. His mission for his clients is that they grow in clarity and confidence. Welcome, Mr. Lin. Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm happy to join you. Thanks, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so college is in the news all the time and things are changing. The landscape is changing so much. I mean, just this past week, we heard SAT is dropping part of its test. So we're curious to know, what are some of the current trends in college right now? Are there some insights you can provide about the application process?
I definitely can, Jamie. Thank you so much for the question. And yeah, there are a ton of things happening in the college admissions landscape for this past year. And let me cover a few of those things. Number one, there has been definitely a trend to go test optional across all major universities around the United States. Not every single one, but most. And essentially, they are giving students the option of whether to submit the SAT or the ACT. And on paper, publicly, every school is saying that you will not be held accountable or you will not have a negative on your review if you don't submit a test. And for the most part, we take schools by their word. And so with that being said, a lot of students are actually this past year submitting more applications to more schools. And actually, even a fresh data point for you from this past month is that most of the top schools and the top, especially the top 50 schools, saw a rise in the number of applications this past year, and especially in the early round. So even Harvard had a 57% increase on the early round, which is ridiculous and enormous.
That's amazing.
And a lot, a lot of that is because schools are going test optional, and oftentimes students feel less inhibited about submitting an application if they don't have to submit their test scores. So maybe another trend is that students are staying closer to home. Perhaps parents are feeling more weary about sending their kids across the United States. Also, sports programs across the United States at Division I schools are also in many cases being cut. So there's less sports recruitment, which may mean that there are more students going into the regular round, or more spaces for the regular round. And there are also less international students coming in as a whole, even though maybe that is directly related to students from China, but other international locations, including Brazil, the UK, are seeing more students applying to the United States. So there are quite a few shifting numbers that are happening here in the landscape. And if I may, how do you respond to these trends? And my suggestion to most students is that even though the SAT and ACT are optional, you should still plan and prepare to take it. And in my opinion, you have nothing to lose by taking it. You can decide at the end, if it's a score that you don't want to submit, to not submit it. And you can, at the end of the college apps this past year, most schools are asking students, do you want us to consider your test scores? So this aspect of like, you can just take it, see what score you get. If you don't like it, then it doesn't have to be included in your profile. That's up to you. So plan and prepare for the SAT, ACT. You should focus in on your grades, because if less students are submitting test scores, then the attention is going to be on your grades. So do what you can to convert those B's into A's, those C's into B's, whatever kind of improvement you have, don't, you don't need to, doesn't need to be ultimate perfection, but just improve and get better. And that's really always the goal. So, and then also the aspect of challenging courses, you also have to understand that schools are trying to determine whether you can handle a college level workload. So if you are given the opportunity to take either honors or AP level courses and you can handle the workload, then you should consider taking them. So that's a whole, perhaps another conversation for another time, but focus on grades, challenging courses. And then maybe the last two things are take the initiative, which is if there are opportunities to do something, and we're going to get into that in great detail over the next few slides. If there's something that's happening in your school, in your community, take the initiative, be a part of the solution, and then remain active in school and in your community.
I really like how, there's that emphasis on focusing on improving yourself in grades, especially if the schools aren't, accepting or not requiring those SAT scores. But, definitely want to focus on how students can pay attention to extracurricular activities, especially as that helps them to develop themselves, their skills. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. I Here's the thing with extracurricular activities is that I always feel like every student needs to go to class, and most students are trying to take tests. So and the extracurricular activities in a student's profile is really the only way, in many ways, to really separate yourself from the rest. So let me kind of go over sort of the value of extracurricular activities. I think number one, it's to help students explore majors and careers, whether it is doing marketing for a nonprofit or shadowing a dentist to really understand whether it's a good fit. It helps students really explore what's a good fit potential major. Secondly, I think it provides purpose and motivation because you know what? Everyone gets tired of studying, reading books, working on math problems out of context.
Mm,
So I always feel like activities oftentimes allow students to apply what it is that they know in the real world.
that
And you can
hands-on,
see, I'm
yeah,
sorry, go.
the hands-on experience.
Yeah, indeed, a hands-on experience. And you could see some of your work impact other people's lives. So I feel like that's super important. Additionally, it is an opportunity for students to demonstrate their passions and interests. Maybe a quick example is that I always feel like sometimes we get seniors who come in and work with us and they say that they want to major in computer science. And the first question I always ask is, what have you done related to computer science? You'd be surprised that like a good half of these students have not touched computer and have not done anything related to computer science. So with regards to a college admissions officer reviewing an application, if you're trying to major in computer science, it would behoove you not to do things related to computer science. So it demonstrates your passions and interests, and as mentioned earlier, it sets students apart from the other. I mean, if you have two students who are exactly the same numbers, but you see a student whose resume is filled with active in their community, leadership in school clubs, helping other people in their world, you invariably are going to lean towards that student. So it does help set students apart.
Yeah, so you said earlier that part of your mission is to help students grow in clarity and confidence. Can you share with us a little, like how you guide your students to develop leadership qualities?
Yeah, I certainly can. And then this whole thing about, just to perhaps preface this whole aspect of confidence and clarity. I always feel like when students do things just for the college app, it's not very motivating. It's just you're, like you're just comparing yourself with your classmates. You're just trying to aim at a particular college. And I find that students get very tired very quickly. But if your motivation is to genuinely help make a difference in your community, really help solve problems, really make an impact in other people's lives, you will discover who you are, what you're about, you will gain confidence, and those are actually the qualities that colleges look for anyways.
Mhm.
So focus on those things, and then you will invariably prepare yourself to be a better college applicant. So, but going back to your question of how do students develop leadership qualities, let me just quickly define what is leadership. I think the first point is always students taking the initiative. So whether it's helping solve problems, helping others, but when you see something, you step in and you take it upon yourself to do something about it. And what it does is, as I mentioned, it helps students grow in confidence. It helps students communicate better. It helps students become more creative problem solvers. And then again, this last part of like, it shows colleges that you're ready. Like when admission reviewers look at college applications, oftentimes, again, they see the same numbers, the same courses, but what they're trying to ask is that will this student be a flourishing student on campus? And when they see students more active, there's more confidence that that student's not going to hide in their dorm room and will participate in campus initiatives and be a thriving part of the campus. So it does show colleges that you're ready.
Mm.
How? Maybe some specific hows. I think traditional leadership is you can certainly run for a club leadership role at one of your school clubs. You can certainly run for student council. But maybe other ways that are not traditional leadership, ways are again help someone in your community. I have a student who, and I'll probably allude to this example later on in the presentation, but she really loves to read, and she has a little cousin who is just sitting at home watching too much YouTube. And that's probably a common scenario with many of the families who are watching. But so she said, I'm going to host an online Zoom book club for my fifth grade cousin. And I'm going to open it up to other friends and families and anybody who's between fourth and sixth grade. We're going to sit down over Zoom. We're going to read a book together. We're going to discuss it. And she started a book club for fourth to sixth graders. There's around 10 or 11 other kids, and they just read together every week. Fun stuff. So she just took the initiative to help someone in her community. And then if you solve a problem around you, invariably you will likely be helping someone in your community. Maybe a few other random examples. We have a student who was volunteering with a family shelter, and there was a lot of donations, and there was no way for the nonprofit to track all those donations. So he built a database to track all the donations so that they know what's coming in, how much is worth, what kind of receipts are going out, all those things, basic stuff. I had another student who started an English club for international students just to have English conversation practice with these students. And I had one of my first students started a business painting house numbers on street curves, and essentially went door to door. This is also pre-COVID, but went door to door and noticed that the house numbers on the street curbs were like faint, and offered to say, I'm happy to repaint the house numbers for you for a $10 donation, and I'm donating 5 of those dollars to the American Cancer Society. And so he took it upon himself, noticed a problem, and developed a solution for it.
I like all of your stories of the students who, found a way to really connect with problems they see. It really seems like they they internalize what they were observing in their community, and then they made themselves authentic um, to make it like make a solution in a very real, impactful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where, I mean, you could certainly take one of these ideas and try to copy it, but I feel like the best ideas come from students themselves. So even these ideas were born from students. As you just said, Jamie, it is their observation of their community and problems that they see, and they develop their own solution. We certainly coached them a little bit on how to develop some of those solutions, but they saw them, they did all the work. They painted all the house numbers on the street curbs, and they did everything. Yeah.
I think it definitely starts with just asking, what can you do to better your community? And, in terms of extracurricular and developing that leadership, what can I do? And it's like you said, I picked up on a point earlier, colleges are really looking for students who will thrive on their campus. And a student who takes on that initiative in high school will certainly continue that in college and beyond, which is, college is supposed to set you up for the beyond, right? So
Yeah, that's absolutely. And And practicing what it means to help others and to solve real problems. It could start very early, and don't underestimate teens. Teens are awesome, and they can do it, and they are changing the world. I know that sounds cliche, but I think I'll share a few more stories that I think students are just doing amazing work, and teens can do it, no question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially in this crazy, peculiar COVID time. I mean, things have definitely changed the landscape for school. But how has shelter in place impacted extracurricular activities? But at the same time, how maybe it has enhanced some of the opportunities moving forward?
Yeah, definitely shelter in place has changed activities. That's no question. So let me perhaps outline a few ways that it has done so. Definitely, it's driven everything online. So I mean, that's obvious. Everybody knows that. But even volunteering has been driven online, and there are things that students can do remotely that are very helpful for nonprofits and other organizations. There is certainly less traditional volunteering with regards to, say, picking up trash at the park, those kind of things. But it also means that there are fewer limitations on locality. And let me kind of give you an example of some different types of volunteering. Certainly, right now, with regards to food insecurity and seniors who are shut in, there are definitely those local things that are still very important and very needed. And students should participate in those things. But in addition to that, there are more organizations across the US that are looking for remote volunteers. The United Nations has different projects that students can participate in remotely. Zooniverse is a online sharing platform where researchers can get students to help them with their research projects. And you're talking about like buffaloes in northern Canada to to all sorts of different things. Students can help with that. Rock to Vote is voter registration, perhaps a little bit more relevant prior to November, but there are different places that are open to having students remotely volunteer. So there are more things, more opportunities open to students than even before in some sense. Maybe a few other different activities that students can do while sheltering in place is almost I mean, there's online classes. Every community college is going online, so you can certainly take a community college classes, which doubles up as a way to improve your GPA and communicate to colleges that you can handle a college level workload. So you can certainly take online classes through a community college or Coursera. You can learn a language. I even like downloaded Duolingo to try to improve my Chinese because my Chinese is terrible. And so, even I'm working on it. So you can learn a language. Write a book sounds super ambitious, but you'd be surprised that actually self-publication on Amazon and other platforms is way easier than you think. And so there are students who are writing short novels and collections of poems, even illustrations, and they're publishing all these things online, and it's not that hard. Start a blog, a YouTube channel, TikTok. TikTok is probably every teen is probably working on that already, but you can certainly start a productive TikTok channel. Study tips or whatever it is. You can certainly work on something like that. Um, do a science experiment at home. Sciencebuddies.com has different projects that you can do right out of your kitchen and create an iPhone app, start a garden and document it. I mean, you can start anything and document it. We have a student who is trying to breed tomatoes and cucumbers in his closet. He's got lights, greenhouse environment, humidifier in his closet, working on it, documenting it on a blog, and then submitting it into science fairs. So,
That's
so
amazing.
you can do a lot. Yeah. Maybe some other creative ideas. I mentioned the book club for kids, and I mean, if it's much easier than it probably sounds. But as we mentioned, just reached out to fourth to sixth graders. Similarly, had another student who's a trumpet player, and just started saying, "Hey, I'm going to give free lessons to other people interested in trumpet. and setting up an hour every week to just practice. You can imagine trumpet players aiming their trumpet at the computer, and everyone's aiming at it, and everyone's just practicing together, trying to create themselves some practice time. I have a student. If you can imagine, I mean, those of you who are parents listening to this, the economic landscape has been super volatile, especially the. And I have a student who's interested in investing, and he basically just allotted himself, $10,000 of fake money, and just invested it, tracked his earnings, and put it up all onto an investing blog. And just to kind of see, he won big on Tesla and lost big on a few other things. So he's putting it all down. And then one example from a couple of our students, right at the beginning of shelter in place, we had a couple students who recognized that classmates and kids, elementary school, junior high students, were not getting the tutoring support that they needed, and they developed an online platform to connect high school students with students from all over the world to give free tutoring to help them support their academic pursuits. And that they started Corn Tutors in March. And since then, they've done over 1,000 tutoring sessions, have recruited over 1,000 tutors, are in over 20 different countries.
Wow.
And it's really quite an operation. I mean, it's intense. And so these guys have worked hard. They identified a problem, developed a solution, and they've been running and running this thing hardcore since March. So if you need a tutor, if you need a free tutor, go on to corntutors.com and take a look.
So it really sounds like there's no limitations even.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I feel like students have the opportunity to do almost anything. And I know that that in itself is sometimes a very sort of like anxiety ridden proposition, like you can do anything. But the
Yeah.
reality is that students can get creative, and students are doing this. This is where it's like it's not parents running it for them. It's not some program like, dictating to them what they need to do. They're doing it on their own, and I'm just convinced students are amazing. Like they have it in them. They're not only our leaders for the future, but they're our leaders now. So this is where I'm very encouraged by what students can do.
And this is a really good time to kind of practice identifying needs, reaching out into the community, like that trumpet learning and practice club. That's really amazing. You can just reach out to some friends and then just hold each other accountable. How did you improve on some skills? And that's just so nice that they can start small or grow it like corn tutors. That's amazing. 20 countries.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of it is. I mean, a lot of it is in many ways like kind of starting any kind of venture. You need to kind of get the word out,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But a lot eventually, students found them,
Yeah.
and it started with a student in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Eventually, went to a student in Turkey, a student in Hong Kong. Found them and said, "Hey, can I start a chapter here?" And this whole aspect of not only helping our community but helping other students help their community. I mean, that's impressive and amazing and
Amazing.
encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess it's just very encouraging that, students can just start, at least just start, right? With an idea.
Indeed, they can certainly start, and I mean, I'm equally as encouraged by the student who just started the book club for 10 kids,
Yeah.
and she's been consistent and has picked different books, and it's been also a godsend for parents, just needing to find different activities for their kids. But my thing is like there are opportunities out there, and it's an opportunity for students to get creative, and this is in many ways sometimes you think that it's a difficult time, but oftentimes difficult times lead to great opportunities as well.
So this is definitely a good way to, um, encouraging way to have kids keep their dream alive. That's the theme of our event. And if they can start thinking about how they can develop leadership skills, think about a way they can better their community, and just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to make this the reason I will share this, but I want to make this a reason. But but definitely, definitely, the college results of the students who led quarantine tutors like are outstanding. So, and they have been. I don't want to, they've been admitted to amazing universities, and you can imagine from a college perspective, they are identifying leadership potential, and they can see it in these students as well. So.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I just want to share a couple more slides. Mr. Lin has his information here. You want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, so we work with students anywhere from the beginning of high school all the way to the very end. We coach students on selecting colleges, finding majors, and writing essays with for their college app. And we work with students all the way through the college prep process until they get their final results, and then we celebrate together and we also have a lot of good free resources on our website. So we've been doing webinars similar to this one for the last 9 months, including having interviewed a lot of admission officers around the United States. And they're all up on our website. If you go to events onto our website, you can click on them. And then we've interviewed Boston University, Northeastern, Emory University, and Pomona College. So a lot of top universities, and you can get from their mouth what they are looking for in students. So go ahead and take a look. In addition to, if you go onto our website, you can sign up for our email list, and we do put out regular webinars. Coming, I don't even know when this is going to be presented, but this coming week we're doing a course selection webinar, and if this is after that fact, you can probably go back to the website and watch it. So definitely, we're trying to put out as much helpful information to as many students and parents as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Their list is extensive. They have a lot of webinars. So go check it out. It's www.ilumineducation.com. That's Illumin Education. And so I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Mr. Lin, thank you so much for your time and for all of your insights and your expertise in this. Um, if you guys are participants in the viewing this video, if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to shoot us your comments and your feedback on our bit.ly for our feedback form. That's bit.ly/ keeping the dream alive. Abbreviated is KTDA feedback. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us, and we'll see you guys at our next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.